Hey everyone, hey friends, this is Jeff from ASTROSCOOP. Today is April 5th, 2024. This is ASTROSCOOP live stream number 14. So, lots to talk about tonight, and I want to say welcome. Let's see who we get. Over the last couple of weeks, I've been seeing different people come in and out, which is a good thing, whether it's subscribers or strangers, but that is definitely a good thing. And over the next hour or so, I'm going to talk about Aries and various things about Aries. We'll talk a little bit about the transits and the planets and anything else that comes up. And if you have any questions or a comment, please let me know. And I've been getting a lot of comments on videos. So possibly people aren't in here, or they're just seeing the videos and then they're commenting there on the signs, some of the things we're talking about over the last few weeks in the live streams. So that's great. Wherever you want to contact me. And I'm also on Twitter or X, which is Astro_Scoop, not dash, Scoop. So I'm on X. I'm also on Instagram, ASTROSCOOP7. That's all lowercase, ASTROSCOOP7. And anywhere else? I don't think so. Not TikTok. And of course, I'm on here on YouTube at ASTROSCOOP3801. So I'm just going to give it a minute before I plunge in and see if anyone else comes. I see there's one person here, or at least there was. Let's see. One beautiful thing now over the last 2 to 3 weeks is I have a window over here, a window to the west here, and I can see the sunset. So the sun, where I am, the sun is setting in about 20 minutes, 19, 20 minutes. And it's just pre-sunset. It's just beautiful. After all that amazing weather, and I know some parts of like Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Canada are getting a blizzard right now, or had a blizzard. So pretty amazing stormy weather for this early to mid Aries period, April 5th, 2024. So it's so nice to look out, and now I'm doing my live streams earlier and I have more light. It's not as dark. I have the lights on, but it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. So let's wait another minute or so. Look at that. I'm still using my Christmas mug. I mean, it's April. I think I need to retire this. This mug is huge though, so I can kind of do like 2 teas in one, and it lasts me hours. So I just nurse it. But yeah, it's probably time to retire it. So I just want to mention before I start that the live streams are weekly now. They were on Saturdays at 7 or 8 p.m. Saturday Eastern Standard Time here on YouTube. Right now, temporarily, Fridays at 7 p.m., which is right now Eastern Standard Time. So I'm not sure about next week. Next week's might be on Saturday. I will let you know. But just don't forget, if you see this live stream, most likely that you're not subscribed. 70 to 80% of you are not subscribed that are watching the videos. So please subscribe so you don't miss any content. And you can subscribe to the bell notification, and then you can choose all. You can personalize it based on what you're watching, and then it'll only suggest certain videos of mine that are based on what you're watching. Or you could do none and then just choose to be subscribed and go in and get the notifications of my videos manually. So whatever you want to do, I truly appreciate it. And I finally hit 500 subscribers, and that's great for me. We were at 499, I believe it was, last week. So now I'm over 500. So yay, go ASTROSCOOP. So we're getting there slowly but surely. We're building the channel, and every subscriber is appreciated, Every view is appreciated. Every minute watched is appreciated. You know, my channel is super microscopic. It's super small. I follow many other small channels of people that are subscribers base is like under 1,000. And these are the, you know, we're the small channels that need support. And we, you know, we do a lot of this work and this creator work and things. My focus is not money with AstroScoop and with the videos. It's never been money. Ultimately, that will be nice. But right now, my focus is not financial. My focus is just share the information, give you some entertainment, and also get the messages going back and forth in the live stream eventually. Get the astrology information and the planets and some, you know, popular culture, you know, references and things that are current so that you can understand yourself better through astrology and understand your loved ones, your family, your friends, people you work with. And all this astrology is a major tool, you know, just like psychology, sociology, you know, personality tests. Everything is a tool to understand yourself and other people. And astrology is an amazing tool. And anyone that's been doing astrology for any length of time obviously feels that way because they continue to do it. So it really is an amazing thing. So I digress, but that's just a major appreciation to all subscribers and to the views. Truly appreciate it, especially from other countries like Russia. I mentioned last week, Russia has been giving me a lot of views, and now also India. So in the last couple of weeks, India has been sprouting in with views with my channel. So it's just wonderful because the United States, I am growing with the views in the US where I am, but it's mostly other countries that are helping me build and grow this channel. So as an American, I truly appreciate it. Whatever language you speak, let me know in the comments. I would love to know. All right, so let's get started. AstroScoop, we are in the Aries 2 period. I mentioned last week, you can check out my live stream from last week. We went into great depth about Aries traits, but specifically the Aries 2, which we're in right now and goes from April 2nd to right around the 9th or 10th of April. So for a few more days, we're in the Aries 2 period, and we're still in it. And this is a time of year where not only everything is sprouting outside, and I mentioned a week or two ago how much the animals in our neighborhood, the animals are just like come alive. And the insects too, like my kids and I, we've been seeing the insects, and we had a mouse. I had a mouse almost enter the house. The mouse was right on our step. I wasn't even afraid. All kinds of creatures. So there's a lot of energy. And being in the Aries 2 decanate, which we're in right now, which is the sun decanate, the sun is literally getting stronger. The Aries energy is more solidified and more powerful. It's more focused. So it's a very, very good time, really good time for Aries people to set goals for the next year, strive and set outer goals, because Aries is a very extroverted sign for the most part. But Aries people need to work on the inner goals. Aries people, especially Aries men, often neglect the inner goals, their inner needs and wants. So Aries is all about striving outside, using the head, ideas, goals, and climbing the mountain, just like Capricorn. But Aries people need to remember the inner goals, inside goals. Those are just as important, if not more important than the outer goals. And Aries people need those outer goals and those challenges, but Aries people will meet those easier and will be able to cope with the stresses easier if they do some of the inner work and they do meet some of the inner goals of themselves, for themselves. So that's an important thing. So like I said, we're in Aries 2 for a few more days. But most of this hour, we're going to talk about Aries 3 period. So Aries 2, as I mentioned last week, if you missed it, please check it out. And I also have a video that I just released an hour ago. Look in my playlist for Aries or fire signs. And I did an Aries video at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I didn't tweet it yet, but I will after this live cast. But check that out. I talk more about Aries, and of course, this is the longer version of the video. So Aries 2 is the solid period of Aries right now, which is the sun's getting stronger, the light is getting stronger, and the Leo energy influences people that are born this week, the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, to be the sun meets Mars is how I said it last week. So the Mars energy, which is very straightforward, the sun is more encompassing and warmer and big and thinks bigger. So it's a good thing for Aries people this week to use the sun. And for all Aries people, this is such an important time of year to harness that energy and to try to use it positively. And every sign, no matter what your chart is, no matter what sign you are, if you're not Aries, you have Aries in your chart somewhere. Aries is on a house, and it means something in the arena of your life. It could be your work. It could be your first house of personality. It could be your 5th house of children, but it's there somewhere in your chart. So you just have to find where Aries is. Very important time to harness the energy. It's just a good time to set your mindset for action. So Aries 3 period. Now this is, I didn't write it down, but this is going to be April 11th to right around the 18th or 19th of April. So that's going to be the last full decanate of Aries, or Aries 3 decan. Most astrologers agree. And then after that, we'll be talking about the Aries Taurus cusp. And my cusp videos are doing so well. I have so many videos that are performing so poorly, and that's par for the course. But it's funny because my videos are really all or nothing. There's a few videos that are doing so well, and most of them are the cusp videos. So it kind of seems like people want to know more about the cusps signs and how they relate together, or there's just more people born during cusp weeks, maybe. I don't know. It's very interesting. Depends on the countries and the stats. But Aries 3, like I said, it's coming up in about 6 days. We're going to be in the last period of Aries. Now, being that it's early spring, all of this energy with the animals, the creatures, and the sun and the trees and everything, and the grass, it's moving forward, right? And then now it's more solid. So we get into the 3rd decanate of Aries, it's culminating in the ideas and the seeds of life, because Aries is the first sign. So Aries is all about ideas and starting things. Aries people have to start things constantly. They may not finish them, but they're always starting something new. So the Aries 3 period is going to finish the Aries period, and then it's coming up on Taurus, where all these ideas and all of this energy can, our efforts hopefully can bear some fruit and be more grounded and more for the long haul, where Aries intentions are not necessarily for a long time, a length of time, whereas Taurus is. So we'll obviously talk about that. But the Aries 3 period is a period that is governed by Jupiter. So last week I said that the Aries 2 period was Mars ruled and the co-ruler was the sun. So with Aries 3 people, we are dealing with Jupiter co-ruler for Mars. So Jupiter meets Mars. So this really inflates and amplifies these Aries people that are born in the last decanate. And the main thing is, this is one of the most idealistic personality weeks of all the 52 weeks. because the Aries energy is at its peak. It's at the end, and it's with the addition of Jupiter. So Jupiter is causes Aries 3 people to be more intellectual, more philosophical, and be more into ideology. Aries people born this week are big into ideologies. It's like they are more social than the Aries 1 and 2 decanates. Aries by nature is not necessarily a sociable sign. Aries is very self-focused and can even be loners. But Aries 3 people with the Jupiter are more gregarious, and they need a group. They need a community to feed off of. So you won't find a lot of Aries 3 people that are lone wolf people or that are living alone or aren't married. You'll find they're much more social in nature, that they're going to need relationships, and they're going to need those fun, challenging, stimulating intellectual relationships, almost like an air sign, more so than any other Aries period, the Aries 3 period. And when I was researching celebrities, which we'll get to later, and every week I do lots of celebrity examples so that you could get a really good indicator of how people use the energies that we're talking about. But when I was looking at the celebrity birthdays, I was looking at all the pictures and just scrolling the last couple of days. And what I noticed about so many of the Aries people born in this decanate is they're more rugged. There's a more ruddy or rugged complexion or feature to their face than earlier Aries. Now, all Aries tend to kind of maybe a ruddy or even reddish or wavy or thick hair kind of expression in their face, depending on their rising sign. But Aries 3 people, particularly the men, very almost horse-like with this Jupiter influence. So even if they don't have Sagittarius rising or a planet in Sagittarius, there's something about how the Jupiter influences. I don't know how to explain it. You have to look it up. But it's very interesting to see how they have this kind of rugged, that's the only way I could describe it, this kind of rugged look that's much different than the Aries 2 people and the Aries 1 people. I'll give you an example. If you look up Vincent van Gogh, the amazing visionary and artist born March 30th in the 1800s, he was an early Aries, March 30th. He was probably about a 9-degree Aries child. So he's the week of the child. Now, he had this long, thin, kind of bony face, right, with the beard, kind of had this profile, but definitely looked, I mean, I can picture him, if you shaved him and a little younger, I could picture him looking very much like a child, even as like a 25 or 30-year-old man, something childlike about him. And then, if you think of an actor like Vince Vaughn, who's born in the week of the child, very much has always had a baby face. And Matthew Broderick, another one, Sarah Jessica Parker, who's his wife, all these early Aries people, they have this boyish and girlish look, not necessarily rugged. Then you have Alec Baldwin in the Aries 2, a little more rugged. You have Marlon Brando, a little more rugged, even though he was clean cut. You have Eddie Murphy, clean cut, but a little more rugged, a little more muscular, a little more of a solid, almost leonine influence. Doris Day, Jane Goodall, Tony Orlando, all these people from history for the Aries 2. And then the Aries 3, definitely just a more pronounced Jupiter type look. So just look at that. If you want to learn about astrology and learn about people and how it affects them physically, look at people on websites and just scroll. It's so interesting, at least to me. So we're going to talk more about fixed stars, just like I did last week. We talked about some fixed stars that were in the early periods, in the teen periods, 16 degrees to like 19 degrees of Aries, 15, 14. And tonight we're going to talk about the Aries 3 period can be anywhere from about 20 degrees of Aries to about 29, which is right before Taurus. And that can also be considered, depending on your system, it can be close to the Aries-Taurus cusp. So it just depends on what kind of system you're using. But one fixed star we have here is most fixed stars on this week, in this constellation, govern a Saturn or Jupiter disposition. Most of that is from Ptolemy. And so even though there's a Jupiter influence with these Aries born in the third decadent, there's also going to be a more thoughtful element to them. So they may be more thoughtful than other Aries that are born earlier due to the Saturn nature. So there's Baton or Baton Kaitos. It's about 21 degrees of Aries. And that's the translate to the sea monster's belly. It's interesting. So it's kind of similar to some of the constellation from last week, where there was some creature symbology to the stars. So that's how they translate it, sea monster's belly. And this star, which is right around 21 degrees, I think that would be like, let's see, maybe April 15th. Someone born the 14th, 15th, or 16th of April would have a conjunction within 2 degrees or so of this star. So serious, thoughtful, and also themes of isolation, which is interesting. And I mentioned how Aries 3 people can be more social than other Aries people. But this particular degree, for some reason, was translated through the texts as being very isolated and not necessarily fortunate. So that's why I put an arrow, a downwards arrow. So it could be kind of unfortunate. In tarot, it relates to the 4 of Wands. So it's a 4. And again, you have to take these with a grain of salt. The fixed stars have been interpreted and analyzed and assimilated by many different scholars throughout the decades and centuries. And then they've been re-edited and rewritten in books, and then re-edited and rewritten. And now there's people online that have, huge databases of fixed stars, and they've put their own take into it based on Ptolemy or some of the other astronomers and astrologers from those periods when those publications were coming out. I think one is the Tetrabiblos, is one of them. So when all those were coming out, those scholars were doing their own take, and now modern day society, modern astrology, and ultra modern astrology, like the new wave of astrology, which a lot of Gen Z and young millennials are getting into, is also bringing the constellations and the kind of the fixed stars back into orbit, which is kind of cool. So I think that I think they do influence people. It's really hard to know how much. Let's see, Rogue reemerged says hello from New Jersey. Hello there. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it. All right. East Coast. So that's why 7:23 Eastern Standard Time right now. So that's why I was mentioning the fixed stars. They are important because when you do your natal or birth chart, everything is degrees and math. So depending on what level of astrologers have, what kind of skill or techniques they use with the math, and I'm not necessarily gifted naturally with that. I use software for that. But God bless the men and women that have written those programs on computers, because I can't even imagine how they did that. So God bless them for doing that. But these do fine tune, just like the decanates, just like the whole week fine tunes your sign. That's why Aries are a little different depending on your period. The next one is Akamar, which is 23 degrees of Aries, which would probably be maybe the 17th, someone born on April 17th or 18th or so. That's a star of knowledge and science, even though there's no modern evidence on that with any modern celebrities or famous people. It's just mentioned as a translation in the texts. So who knows? But knowledge science, but it is a star of change. And that is also indicative of Jupiter, because this is the only Aries decanate that's influenced by Jupiter, which is a mutable. The sign is Sag, which is a mutable influence. And then next we have Alferg, which is actually 2 words. I thought it was 1 word, but it's Alferg. This runs at 26 degrees in the constellation. And so that would be later on in the week towards the Aries-Taurus cusp. And this is a determined sign, also because Jupiter is kind of meeting up with Venus. When you get to the Aries-Taurus cusp, we're going to have 2 rulers, which is Mars and Venus. And we'll talk about that. But it's a little more determined because it's a late view. It's the last decanate of Aries is peaked, and it's a later view of Aries, and it's kind of getting more harnessed as it gets closer to Taurus. And there's also obstacles from what I read with that star. But more obstacles, more determination means that could cancel that out. Another star is Vertex, which runs at 27 degrees. And again, that's even closer to the 29-degree end of Aries, 3rd decanate. This is a very public star. So some celebrities that I read about have access or affinity for the public. And this is 27 degrees, Mars and the moon influence, Mars and or moon influence on that. And then it also mentioned eyes. It mentioned specifically eye issues. So that would be someone that was born very April, let's see, 11th, 18th. So maybe someone around the 18th, close, the 17th or 18th or so. Mars, moon, and eyes issue. And all Aries, most Aries back in history has always associated Aries with the head and different parts of the head. So some of these stars are like the crown, the front of the head, different areas in those kind of old diagrams you can look up on the constellation and also the zodiac signs, like those really old pictures. Those are really, really interesting to look at. Handwritten pictures. So any Aries planet, especially these, has to be careful of eye accidents. Absolutely. I think Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the basketball player, I know he's in Aries. Remember, he used to wear a lot of guys used to wear those goggles in the NBA. And I think he's had a lot of eye issues as an Aries. So it's just something that could happen. And an Aries person would also want to look to, you'd want to look to your Mars aspects. Now, I'm not a medical astrologer. I don't claim to know a lot about that. So that's not my field. There are astrologers that are trained in the medical part of it and that know that really well. And but generally speaking, that could be an issue with the eyes or head. So the Jupiter decan for these Aries. So all 3 fire signs are ruled by a planet. So Leo's ruled by the sun, Aries people are ruled by Mars, and Sagittarius people in the winter are ruled by Jupiter. So every week has a decan. So the fire sign decans are the 3 fire signs. So by adding Jupiter with this, the 3 fire signs. So by adding Jupiter with this decan, like I said at the beginning of the hour, it really amplifies these Aries people into kind of large personalities, more so like a Sagittarius type person. But instead of being a Sagittarius personality, which they're not, this Aries person would amplify their Aries qualities. So their Aries qualities of being fiery or assertive or aggressive are going to be amplified, and it's amplified mostly intellectually. So Aries people born this week from the 11th to the 18th or 19th, if you know anyone born that week, you'll know these people have very, very strong ideas. Now, all Aries people tend to have strong ideas. Most Aries people can be headstrong. But Aries people in this week, 11th to 18th, There's something philosophical about them. And when they argue with you, they will argue with you on a more philosophical level. It's not as personal. It's not as ego driven. And they're more socially oriented. So they're more inclined to go into what the group, to do something for the betterment of the group rather than just themselves. But they have very, very strong ideas of what their community or what their family or what their team at work should be doing. So I don't know. I wouldn't call them bossy. Wouldn't necessarily call that bossy. That would be more the Leo decadent. With the Aries 2 person would probably be more bossy in terms of like that kind of, a manager or supervisor type of thing. But the Jupiter decan just amplifies the Aries qualities, but it adds variety as well. So people born in this decan can get bored very easily, and they have high energy. I know one guy born in this week. He's born on the 11th, and he is a marathon runner. And of course, there's lots of marathon people that are not Aries people, but he's a marathon runner, and he's the quietest, most easygoing guy. You would never know he's like this ultimate athlete, but it's where he puts all his Mars Jupiter energy into it. And he's very competitive with himself and his family, but not with other people. He's just super competitive with himself and his family in a fun way. But he needs constant variety of different, he challenges himself with different, marathons and things, and it can bring athletic ability. So Mars usually in like traditional astrology, a lot of the books would talk about Mars aspects, strong Mars aspects, or Aries planets, or Mars energy is good for sports or has an inclination for athletic ability and sports. But Jupiter also does as well, because when you marry Mars and Jupiter together, you have energy and expansion. And often people in this decadent can, I've known several people in this decadent personally, and they're all tall. That's interesting. I just thought of that. All the people I've known personally in this decadent are all over 6 feet, all over the average, including the women. So that's kind of interesting. I wonder if that adds some height to the native, depending on what's going on in the rest of the chart. But it definitely adds variety, and it adds athletic ability. All right, let's take a little break here. We're halfway through. I'm not sure if my chat box is updating here for me. It tells me there's one person here and 1 thumbs up, but I think there's 2 or 3. So I think maybe there's just a way is there a way you can be on incognito? Because I haven't been in someone's podcast or live cast in a while. Like, I know if I visit someone's live stream, I usually don't chat, but I think they can see my name. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. It's just interesting. Let me know if you know about that. So Jupiter, was the father of the gods in mythology. And obviously it's a kind of a male influence. But it adds a big picture ideals. So these people are idealistic Aries 3 people, and it adds a big picture element to them. So they can see the big picture. Definitely more so than the Aries 1 or 2 period. Now, the Aries 1 period, which we talked about a couple weeks ago, that when spring first starts, very early, Aries people can be a little childlike or naive, and they don't necessarily look long-term or future planning, and they don't necessarily look big picture. But this is a decadent of Aries that can not only take an idea and run with it like Aries can do, like Aries people can do well, but they can look at the big picture, which is great. And so that brings the ideals to their Mars nature. So again, that just adds to the energy. As I mentioned, they're more sociable, and they can be quite eloquent verbally. Aries people most Aries people will have a natural charisma about them. Even quiet Aries people or quiet introverted Aries people, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a charisma that everyone likes, because I know that Aries people can turn people off, can turn other signs off with their brusque or blunt manner. So it depends on how the Aries uses their charisma. But most Aries people have that kind of natural energy being the first sign. But here, this decade is more, the charisma is more verbal. There's an eloquence to them, even if they're quiet. And again, that also they can be argumentative. They like to defend. They're better on defense than they are on offense, this Aries type person. So this isn't an Aries type person that's going to start a fight, but they're going to most likely defend verbally. They're going to defend their position to you verbally. And the people I've known, they're pretty strong talkers and big talkers as well. But you would want to incorporate balance there, because these people are great. They're very, very positive people, but they don't have a lot of patience for people that aren't as positive to them or as them. So if people complain or are overly realistic about what the situation is in your life or at work or whatever, they won't have a lot of patience for nagging or complaining. That's not a strong point. And they won't be a late Aries person isn't naturally empathetic either. There would have to be something else there in the chart for them to be more empathetic and to see your point of view and work with that. So those aren't some of their, patience with people that are overly realistic and empathy, not necessarily the strong points for this decade. So it needs balance. That's where you would incorporate Libra. So I talked about in my video that I just released tonight at 6 p.m., my Aries video, Aries 2 and Libra 2. So it's really important. I don't know why I don't hear more astrologers talking about the opposites in astrology. The polar opposites in astrology are everything. If you look at all the old astrology books, it doesn't matter if it's sidereal astrology or Western astrology, tropical, geocentric, or traditional or modern astrology. It's the opposites are what make the whole. So you can't have Aries without Libra, and you can't have Libra without Aries, right? So you can have yin without yang, and vice versa, day and night, sun and moon. So it's so interesting. Anytime you're trying to figure out something or someone in astrology, or your loved one, or your husband or your wife or your kid, they're an Aries, but I don't get them. Think of it opposite. Think of it the opposite. Do you know a Libra? And how does the Libra, act? And is the Aries similar or different? And they're going to be both. They're going to be both similar and different. So it's very important to incorporate the opposites. So for Aries 2, it's Libra 2. For this decan, for Aries 3, it would be Libra 3, which would be a very late Libra coming up on Libra-Scorpio cusp, which we'll be talking about in 6 months. So that's where you incorporate balance. So Aries people can do well with Libra, especially like a Libra coworker, a Libra person in a club, or a friend, because Libra can add a nice balance to Aries. Aries and Libra can clash because they both have strong opinions, and they can polarize, but there's definitely a need for balance there. One of the negatives of Aries 3 people is they can force ideas on others. And this is something that's an Aries theme for all Aries people, that it's also a fire sign theme that all 3 fire signs can do, is forcing ideas on others because of their unbelievable amount of enthusiasm. So Aries 3 people born in this decade, especially because of Jupiter, can get carried away with enthusiasm. And they can also be unrealistic because they want things a certain way, or they want to see a situation and they want to see it in a big, positive, cheerful way, and it might not be that way. So again, that's where the balance comes into play. So that's a lesson for them. It's a lesson to kind of get a status update with the people around you and where things are at, and incorporate that Libra, the more weighing and judging of how Libras moderate things. And then you want to look to So if I did your astrological chart, or any astrologer was looking at your chart, or you do your own chart on any of the sites, you have to look to Mars and Jupiter. And I would look at Jupiter, even though this isn't a Sagittarius planet, because it's the Jupiter decadent, you have to look at Jupiter in your chart to see how and where you expand your energy, and how you would expand your energy in relation to being an Aries person and your Mars, because Aries are all about energy. So that's a good overview of Aries 3. And but we're talking about the 3 major decans of all the 12 signs. They all have similar traits, right? So it's like back in the 70s when somebody said, "Hey baby, what's your sun sign?" You know, when it was all just sun sign, and it was more superficial or was more generalized. People weren't probably as concerned with decanates or degrees or fine tuning certain things. There was more like, well, I'm a Taurus, I'm an Aries. You know, I'm born April 1st, I'm an Aries. I'm born April 18th, I'm an Aries. I'm born March 22nd, I'm an Aries. So all those different, you know, wildly different weeks, but yet you're still all in Aries. So you're going to have a basic framework of traits or potential, and then being in a decadent and looking to those particular planets in your chart will give you an indicator of how it works. You know, this is what's so fascinating to me. When I first started getting into astrology, I was skeptical, like many people are. I was, you know, a skeptical young man, and I wasn't against it, but I didn't necessarily see the value in it, and I didn't get it or understand it right away. So I was like, oh, whatever, you know, I was kind of meh. I was kind of meh about it. And when I started to read books and I started to look at charts, after about 2 or 3 years, I was getting there. I still wasn't fully on board, but the more and more I looked to see how the weeks worked and how the months worked, and I looked up all my friends and all the people in my family, it was just an amazing, you know, illumination on how it works. And you just have to come to that conclusion by yourself. You have to come to it in your own terms, because if you don't want to see certain things, you might not. And also, if it's a placebo effect, if you want to just see all the good in the signs, that's maybe what you're only going to see too. So it does become a fine-tuning kind of operation with astrology, and you start to get the more subtle aspects, which is pretty amazing. So I just want to mention, before we talk about the celebrities here, my daughter, I got a shout out to my daughter. She did this a couple weeks ago, and this is the Aries Ram here, and I asked her to draw something for me, and she surprised me, and that's the Aries Ram, which I had last week and the week before, because we're in the Aries period. And then today she said, "What do you want? What symbol do you want for tonight's talk?" And I said, well, she goes, "You're a fire sign, Dad." I said, "Yep, I am a fire sign." So I said, "Just do fire." So she did this little fire thing. So pretty cool. She's not technically an artist, but I think she's got talent, which is great. So thank you to my daughter. Nice little shout out there, which is wonderful. So let's talk about celebs and how they use their energy. Now, when I was researching this week for celebrity birthdays for this week, now it's not the celebrities that are born right now, because I did that last week. We're kind of off a little bit. This is the celebrities that are born from the 11th to the 18th or 19th. So all these celebrities are Aries 3 period famous people. So Mars people with the Jupiter influence. So we have Tiny Tim, interesting looking guy. A couple pictures I saw of him. Definitely does not look like a typical Aries, but kind of has that long, thin face, a little rugged, I guess, but also a little atypical. So I would look, whenever someone doesn't look like their sign or what you think they should look like based on certain characteristics, there's often something in the chart near the first house or ascendant, and there's often something in or around, or even the 12th house, but there's usually something with the rising sign and the aspect of the chart. It will be on this side of your wheel. So that's kind of interesting. Herbie Hancock, who is an amazing jazz and electronic pioneer pianist. I did see him in concert once about 20 years ago. And he did just classical stuff, which was interesting because he has a lot of jazz, fusion, electronic, R&B type influenced music, but he's also a very accomplished kind of classical pianist, and he's amazing. And he's a real pioneer in jazz. He's an absolute pioneer, and his music it's Aries-like in the sense that it has good energy, it has positive energy, but it's not as strong as maybe the early Aries energy might be. So he uses more of a Jupiter influence there. Now, this is interesting. The alternative UK group Echo and the Bunnymen from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and today, Will Sargent and Les Pattinson, co-founders of the group, are both born this week. So that's interesting because Echo and the Bunnymen's music is almost as reminiscent of kind of the Doors and Jim Morrison, but it's more alternative and a little more dark and gothic kind of. And it's interesting because the music, to me, it's kind of hard to get used to. It's an acquired taste, but it takes you on a journey. So I think the Jupiter influence of these two men in that group is the energy is more focused, and it's a little more, it's maybe like a thinking person's alternative group. So two guys from the same group born this week. Thomas Jefferson, look at his hair, kind of had a rugged look. And you can see in some of Thomas Jefferson's, speeches and some of his text, how he used some of his ideals and a little more eloquence, verbal, and not as much pure Mars, Aries energy. Bill Conti, this is probably my favorite on the list. He is the composer for the music for Rocky. And that music is so triumphant, right? The Rocky music is so triumphant, and it's so Aries, but also it's really magnificent. It's a magnificent orchestral composition, which is not early Aries. It's not naive and childlike. It's fleshed out. It's mature. But so it's that Jupiter influence. So Aries 3 people have more of a maturity, I think, in their craft, probably more so than the early Aries period, depending. But Bill Conti, that Rocky music, I mean, it just makes you want to just achieve and get up and watch Rocky, maybe. It's amazing. Al Green, of course, famous R&B soul singer. He was very much a pioneer, along with Marvin Gaye and earlier James Brown and Sam Cooke and guys like that. But Al Green, definitely, love and happiness. Let's stay together. Definitely very, very positive messages. Ron Perlman from The Beauty and the Beast, and also many movies and TV series. He's an interesting guy. And I was thinking about the height I mentioned before, how some of the people I've known have been tall. And the people on this list, actually, I think most of them in real life are not that tall. Ron Perlman is. I don't think Al Green is. Thomas Jefferson, no. Herbie Hancock, no. Tiny Tim, no. Necessarily tall. So that's kind of interesting. But Al Green, Ron Perlman, wonderful in Beauty and the Beast, and definitely very mythological, magnifies those Mars kind of energy that he did through his roles. Louis Johnson, in my opinion, one of the best bassists of all time. Bassist from a group called the Brothers Johnson. He also worked with Quincy Jones, and he worked on many stellar albums, including with Michael Jackson, Off the Wall, one of the biggest albums of all time. And just an amazing thumping bass man. Talk about magnificent, talk about amplification of energy. Just look up a video of Louis Johnson doing a bass solo. Like, even if you don't like bass or you don't like music, his talent is just undeniable. And then here you can't really see. This was the focus of my video tonight. So check out my video. I did a little profile on Anthony Michael Hall. So he's born April 14th, 1968. And most of you will know Anthony Michael Hall from the Lampoon Vacation movie with Chevy Chase, where he played Rusty the son. And his biggest signature role is probably The Breakfast Club, where he was one of the teenagers in the school in The Breakfast Club. And then more recently, he's done sort of kind of B movies, and he was in one of the Halloween movies. He had a major role in one of the later Halloween movies a couple of years ago. But Anthony Michael Hall has had a lot of trouble in his personal life. And if you look at his chart, his amplification of the Jupiter influence on all of his Mars planets have caused him to be a little go overboard and overflow with his Aries energy. And so he could probably do with some balance in his life and maybe some meditation or something. But yeah, he's definitely a very good example of an Aries born in this decade. Leonardo da Vinci in the yellow, another very interesting looking fellow, especially with the hair and the beard. Bill Sutter III, he's a really, really good trumpet player from the 70s and 80s, R&B trumpet player. He's not someone I don't think that's well known, but he was a really good session player and really, really fiery trumpet. Tim Curry, the kind of eccentric, fiery actor that's in the movie Clue, a Rocky Horror Picture Show, and of course many other interesting and cult-like theater and movies. He's interesting. Now he's probably more so of an Aries Taurus cusp. I picked him. I think he's the 19th, so he could probably be considered more an Aries Taurus cusp than the Aries 3. But I also see him as a Jupiter person too, because he's kind of too much. There's something about him that's very too much he acts with his mouth and everything. So I put him on here, and he's very like goofy and fiery in his own way, but also very eloquent. He's very, very highly verbal. Stuart Adamson, rest in peace. He died a few years ago. He was from the UK group Big Country, and their music was very magnificent and very big sounding, and had elements of Irish music, Scottish music, and English music in it. And he was very, very underrated, Stuart Adamson with Big Country. He was probably just as talented as Bono from U2, and so was the group. But yet they, with him dying a few years ago, he didn't get the acclaim. And then Jimmy Destry, it's probably someone no one's ever heard of. He was the keyboardist for Blondie in their first incarnation. When Blondie was coming up in the mid to late 70s, he was her keyboardist. And I think he did a lot of good keyboard work in Blondie and put some good fire into her Cancer songwriting. She has a lot of water in her chart, Debbie Harry. So she did a lot of watery songwriting, kind of glammy and watery. And he's just someone that was really, really good. If you listen to the keyboard work, it's pretty amazing. So we're coming up on the hour, and I just wanted to see if anyone had any questions. Comments. I mean, every week I have a guideline here, and I know that people will pick and choose, parts of the live stream. I know an hour is kind of a lot to watch someone. I know there's some people that do 2 and 3 hour live streams, but whatever my videos are, if you see my video from last week or whatever my current video is, the live stream is just a kind of a long form content of my videos, and then just adding in much more of the celebrity examples. And please, anybody that sees this in the future, please comment what you'd like to see in future live streams, because this is still early on. It's kind of in the infancy stage of what I'm doing as far as guidelines and the signs. And each week I'm trying to make it timely to the sign we're in, the period we're in, and the month we're in, and current birthdays, etc. But if you want to hear, or you have different things you would like to hear about with astrology, modern or traditional astrology, Western astrology, please let me know, because I'm open to it. And constructive criticism is always good. Civil criticism. Most of the negative feedback I've gotten from my videos here and there have been they've been fine. They've been a little negative, but that's good. You know, I don't leave negative comments on people's videos or live streams. I don't see the need to. But if you have something if you have something that you really want to say and it's constructive, you think it'll help the channel out or it'll make things more interactive, I'm definitely open to hearing it, because this is all a work in progress and it's growth for everyone. And like I said at the beginning of the hour, this is a very small microscopic channel. I truly appreciate every subscriber and every view. And there's a lot of YouTube creators that are on, you know, that even astrologers and tarot people that do this for all the wrong reasons. And if you knew me in real life, of course, you'll never be able to understand this, but if you knew me in real life, you would know that my intentions are in the right place as far as my messages that I want to get out to people using this channel for astrology for the future is to grow it. However it must grow. But every view, every minute, and every subscriber is truly important. When I think about in the last 30 days that Russia, more views came from Russia than any other country in the world. That blows my mind. I have no idea why. I don't even know what astrology is practiced in Russia, or tarot, or anything with symbols. And that's so interesting to me, being in the US, as far as Russian viewers. So that's wonderful. And then it used to be, you know, Argentina, more South American countries in the beginning. And I really, really appreciate that. And I also want to make a shout out to both men and women, male and women viewers. I appreciate you so much. Hey, oh my goodness. What's up, Chris? Hey. So everyone, whoever's here, Supernova Meditation Project, that's Chris Hart. And I tweeted, shouted her out a couple times. So you need to check her channel out. She's Supernova Meditation Project. And Chris, you're on YouTube, X, and Instagram, right? I think that's it. I'm not sure if there's anything else. But thank you for stopping by. I really appreciate it. You have your Aries part of fortune. Oh, you have it 19 degrees. Ooh, wow. Oh my God. And then of course Chiron and the node. I know. I think Eric's been talking about that. Big E Astrology. That's another amazing channel. And I mentioned that at the very beginning, I think my first live stream. Big E, or Big 3 Astrology, Eric. He's amazing. What an amazing, yeah, he's a master. Aw. So what I was mentioning before is about the small channels. So those of us that are smaller, especially like sub 1,000 subscribers, we really need the small people to rally behind us and help us, and and in a natural way, in an organic way, because you don't want to assume that you're only going to get good information or practical information or useful information from the big channels. And I've watched so many videos on astrology and tarot and meditation in the last 30 days. I've watched people that have 50,000 views, 100,000 views. And I can honestly say, without being too critical, I can honestly say there's not a lot of difference in the value I took away from the video about someone with 50 views and someone with 50,000 views. I think it's kind of, it's popularity, or it's someone that you resonate and vibrate with. It's all vibration and frequencies and resonate. So, and that's what, Chris, that's what you're all about, is taking the Aries, taking all the zodiac signs and the frequencies and putting those together. And that's why it's so unique, because we all do a different little piece here. But if you put all our channels together, it's like, it's amazing. It's just amazing. I learn from almost all the videos I watch. I learn something from, and I assimilate and absorb it. And it's really, really important. And I wanted to mention, because Supernova mentioned her part of fortune at 19 degrees of Aries. The Aries planets, now part of fortune is more like an asteroid. It's not necessarily like, it's not a personal planet. It's not a transpersonal planet or an outer planet. It's more, it's a focal point. It's definitely something that some astrologers would focus on and some astrologers wouldn't. But when you get deep, especially with mundane astrology, when you do that deep dive, the degrees really do matter. And I know there's a lot of astrologers that get really, really, really obsessive with that. But the 19 degrees, I was talking last week about the Aries 2 period and the sun influence. And I would think with Chris having her part of fortune at 19 degrees, Aries people would absolutely, either in a past life or in a current life, Aries people would be instrumental in some way in teaching you, leading you, or just spurring your spirit, or spurring you into action. And you for them as well, depending on where Libra sits in their chart. Yes, she says, yes, I love how each astrologer has new insights. Yeah, I agree. 100%, Chris. Yep. I've been saying it. I've been saying on my live streams every week that I don't want my thoughts to get so rigid that I'm not learning. If I'm doing this live stream when I'm 70, I want to still be learning. Absolutely. Like, I have strong opinions. There's no doubt about it. Anyone that knows me in real life, I definitely am opinionated. But I'm always learning from people. And but the Aries part of fortune, absolutely, that would be an integral. Anybody that has an Aries node part of fortune, or maybe even the asteroids like Pallas or Vesta or Ceres, there's going to be an Aries person in your life that would be instrumental in that. And Aries being the first sign, Aries is a child. Aries is the child, and Aries has the wisdom of a child, but Aries also has the vulnerability of a child. So when you look to Aries planets, and there's the transits like Chiron or Chiron, however you want to pronounce it, and the node, that's undoubtedly going to trigger Aries people, and or those Aries planets. It will undoubtedly trigger it in some way. And sometimes it's unconscious. People might get it through their dreams. You might get it through meditation. You might get it through getting a tarot reading or working with crystals. You might get something, or animals might tell you. The animals might tell you. Like, it's it's amazing. My cats this week, are been so bad, doing all sorts of things in the house they're not supposed to be doing. So I feel like they're trying to tell me something. They're not happy, they're frustrated, and they are feeling the spring energy. They're feeling the release, of everything coming up, starting with Aries, and it's an amazing thing. But Aries planets, I was talking about Aries people for the last 2 weeks. Aries people are not always good at digging deep and doing the inside work. So it's not natural for Aries people, especially Aries men. I can't tell you how many blogs I've seen about people saying negative things about Aries men. Whew. I don't know. I mean, any sign can have negativity, right? Any sign can be unevolved, immature. If we're in a dark place in our lives, we can mistreat people by accident. We can misfire, and hopefully we can balance that out, and we can recover, and we can repair things with people. Sometimes we are going to hurt people, And Aries is so raw that the Aries energy can hurt very easily, but can also be hurt easily. So it's very important for Aries people. This is a huge mission for Aries people to heal during this period. And then those Aries planets, especially the transits with Chiron and the node and the sun and Mercury. Let me look just 1 second here. Yeah, Mercury's 26. The node is 15. So yeah, so the middle of the road Aries planets, you know, all the like 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 19, 20 is getting kind of late, but all those planets are definitely being activated and triggered. And it's almost like an Aries person or an Aries planet, you need your opposite. So I talked about in my video tonight, the Aries 2 and the Libra 2, you know, the opposites are polarizing, and they also attract and can be repelled by each other, but can also attract. But they have what each other lacks. So an Aries and Libra kind of have what each other lacks and may admire those parts and pieces. They might be annoyed by that personality, but they all might also be attracted and say, wow, I wish I could be like that. You know what I love about Libra people is what I don't necessarily have naturally, is how Libra people can, even if they're mad or pissed off, how they can be cool in a situation that requires it. They can just bide their time and be cool and detach a little bit. And then maybe later they'll go off verbally or they'll release. But in that time or in that period, they'll get through the day and they'll be a little cranky. The scales will be a little off, but they keep their cool, and they'll be able to balance their energies for the day until they can have an outlet. Whereas an Aries person or an Aries planet is going to be more transparent about what's bothering them and most likely not going to be able to hide it, that sort of thing. But let's see for a second here. Usually at the end, we look at the transits. I'm sorry I can't show you all this, hoping to share my screen at some point, or maybe do another wheel in the back here. Let's see. So this is what's interesting right now. So if we looked at a baby, if a baby was born right now, he or she would have a plethora of Aries and Pisces planets. Highly, highly impulsive and emotional person. And when you combine all the energies of the cosmic chart, you get the majority is cardinal energy, the cardinal signs, and water energy. So cardinal and water, which would be Cancer. Cancer is a cardinal water sign. So if you took all that, so that's another nuance of astrology that I use, is you look at the big picture and then you kind of distill it to see what the real influence is on the chart. So if a baby was born tonight or tomorrow, this baby would have all this Aries that we were talking about and all this Pisces, and would have Moon in Pisces, Mars in Pisces, Saturn in Pisces. Holy cow. Talk about sensitivity. Woo, this is a tough chart. And this particular baby would not have a lot of Earth for grounding. They would not have any major Virgo, no major Capricorn, and they would have 2 outer planets in Taurus. They would have Libra rising. So Libra rising right now, and the Earth planet is in Libra in the first house. So there's a little bit of emphasis for Libra outer personality. And then, of course, we have Pluto in Aquarius, which is going to be there forever. And no Gemini, laying low with that. And then the other fire signs, Leo and Sag, are laying low. There's nothing going on. So major, major focus with Aries and Pisces here. And but I always put in my posts that when there's a major focus in the astrological chart of the sky, it's always going to activate, for Aries, it's going to activate all the cardinal signs. So Cancer, Capricorn, and then of course Libra. But it will mostly activate Aries and then Libra, the opposite. But it depends. It depends on your chart, and it depends on your degrees for that for that thing. But you know, all this Aries energy here, like I mentioned here, the Aries 3 period is definitely probably the most mature Aries, because it's kind of peak Aries coming into the Aries Taurus cusp. So does anyone else have a question? I was gonna wrap up in about 5 minutes. Let's see. East Coast. Let's see. I think we have. Okay. Oh, and another thing I wanted to say about the celebrities, if you didn't catch when I was talking about the celebrities before, when I was researching celebrities for this week, it's odd that I get really excited about the celebrities. If you watch my videos, you know I'm very into famous people. I'm not worshiping famous people. I like to see how they use their energy and how it's a good example of their essence and how they use their charts. And this week, I wasn't resonating a lot with the people I was looking up. Most weeks, I find a lot of people that I resonate with, a lot of famous people, especially musicians, because I'm such a big music lover. But this week, I was like kind of feeling lukewarm or kind of neutral about them. So I'm not sure why that is, even though I really like Herbie Hancock. He's really cool. And Bill Conti from Rocky, I mentioned before, the Rocky music. And even though it's very masculine, it's very triumphant, and you cannot be moved by it, sort of thing. A Rogue Reemerge says, "Did you feel the earthquake today?" Yes, I live 15 minutes away. Oh, you're close to me. Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah, I was in my office here. I happened to be in my office. I normally wouldn't have been at that time, but I was here, and my shelves shook. That was scary. I thought it was a truck going by, and the shelves shook, and it was the ground too. I felt it. That was a little scary. Yeah, that was. I don't know. I would have to think about that astrologically. What I think that means. I would have to look. Obviously, I have the chart. I have today's chart or tonight's chart up on my computer right now, but I have to look at 1023. That's interesting. Well, that also opens up a whole nother can of worms with discussion as far as whether you think that is it possible that earthquake was completely natural, 100% natural, or not? You know, if you know what I mean. So I don't want to be controversial, but you know, there's a lot of different theories out there about the weather and things that the governments may or may not be doing. So there's a lot to that, and that's something that I can entertain. Maybe we could talk about that in a different time. But yeah, I did feel that, and that was really, really, really interesting. I mean, Mars, you know, the transiting Mars is in Pisces right now, and you know, the transiting Mars is different than talking about someone that has a personal Mars, that someone has Mars in Pisces in their chart. You know, like you know, Stephen Piercy from the group Rat, Phil Collins from Genesis, Pisces Mars. I believe Annie Lennox from the Eurythmics, Pisces Mars. So Pisces Mars people are amazing with music. Wouldn't even matter what the rest of their chart is. If they have a well aspected Pisces Mars, they're going to have a natural flow and an amazing intuition with energy and the ground and the earth. But with transiting Mars, which is it's more of our collective sensitive Pisces energy, that's, talk about changeable. Look at the weather has been so bizarre. It's so erratic. And that's usually more Aquarius and Pisces, erratic, you know, energy, changeable ebb and flow of the tides. But we're in Aries. It's interesting, but we don't have any personal planets right now that are in fixed signs. We don't have any Taurus or the ground things. We don't have the Capricorn anymore. We don't even have like Scorpio or Leo, you know, something that might make things a little more solid and firm. So you could look at it that way. The Mars in Pisces is overflowing with changeability right now. That's kind of one way. And things are very sensitive. Even just the way people drive. People always drive crazy, but the way people have been driving in the last couple of weeks, I don't know what's going on. It's like people are insects or something, like looking to get back into the corner somewhere. I don't know, but that's I'll have to think about that a little more about this earthquake. But when that happened this morning, I was like, there's no way that could be an earthquake here on the East Coast. I mean, we haven't had one, I think, since 2011. I think we had one. 2011 was, I think it was in the 5 range, maybe 5 point something. I read it was definitely, yeah. That's when my daughter was born in 11, because she's going to be 13. So yeah, we did have one. I know we had a power outage, and then we did have that year as well. But a lot of food for thought. And I just want to say I really appreciate any of you. I know I don't have a lot of viewers on these live streams, and I've been doing some marketing with my videos, really trying to get myself out there a little more. It's not natural for me to want tons of exposure. And I like it and I don't like it. There's definitely a shy part of me that does not like the exposure of social media, but we all have messages that we want to intuit and we want to share with the world, right? So creative people, however you are, whether you're a songwriter or you're a meditation musician like Supernova Meditation Project, you know, or you're a songwriter, rapper, astrologer like Biggie, astrology like Eric Taylor. No matter what your creative juices are, and if you're an empath or you're an intuitive person, and I mean a real intuitive person, that you are in it. You're in it to win it, so to speak. You know, your heart's in it and your soul's in it. Then it's hard to put yourself out there because you pick up on the vibrations, but it's also needed in this day and age. It's the only way we can get our messages across, and it's good to build those collaborative, especially with the small channels and the small businesses rather than the big ones. It's good to collaborate because it's very important. And I think a lot of people on YouTube, I would guess, almost like performers, people on YouTube, probably in real life, are probably, a lot of them are probably shy and introverted. But on here, we can come alive and we can be more dramatic, and we can use the energies in our chart. And I can use my Libra midheaven. I don't have any major Libra, but I have Libra on the 10th. So for those of you that understand the 10th house, I'll talk about this again, but I would appear in the public, I would appear to have a Libra type expression. And there's parts of it I like and parts of it I don't. I'm not a Libra, but I have Libra on the 10th. So that would also indicate that I would have some affinity with Libra planets in the public. So I will leave you with that. Thank you so much for stopping by. Chris, I really appreciate it. I love all your stuff. And you're on fire with your videos. I know you've been doing a lot of marketing with that one mentor. And I wish you the best of luck. I mean, you're on fire. Your video, I can't keep up. I watch them all. And if anyone else that's a small channel, if you do music or astrology or tarot or numerology, any of those, if you want to promote yourself on my channel here, let me know. If you're struggling or something, I'll shout you out. As long as I vibe with your content, and you vibe with mine, I will shout you out. And what does it hurt? It's good to just be generous sometimes without expecting anything in return. I'm getting tired. So, all right. So I will say good night. I wish everyone a great weekend. Happy Aries period coming up, the Aries 3. And you're very welcome. I appreciate it. And stay safe and be yourself. I'll see you next week.